and welcome to the CHGO White Sox podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome in. I'm in the West Loop right here. This is the CHGO Studio A. It's so beautiful here. I love this place. My name is Herb Lawrence. I am usually the CHGO community leader, but today I'm acting as the host. You can follow me on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. To my left, all the way to the left, is Vinnie Duber. He is the CHGO White Sox beat reporter. You follow him at Vinnie Duber on Twitter. And in the middle is our special guest this week. You see her on CHGO Sky, and now she's joining us this week for CHGO White Sox. It is Janice Scurio. You can follow her on Twitter at Scuriosa.
It's Leviosa.
And so, guys, last night was just such a great day. I'm still hyped about the Chicago teams beating the Boston teams. Firstly, because I don't like Boston, even though I've never been there. Just heard bad things about it. That Patriots kid who's like, I want all these championships in my life. And he's like 16. He's got like 20 championships. I don't like that kid. And so while leaving this place last night after the show, Matt Peck from our CHGO Bulls show was like, man, it's going to be a bad day. We're losing to Boston twice. I was like, well, the Bulls are pretty good. They've acquitted themselves pretty good early in the season. They have a chance. They're at home. Maybe Boston went out last night and enjoyed Chicago's great dinner scene and their bar scene, and they got a little too drunk. And that's like the Bears have had 11 days off, so might as well beat the Patriots out there in New England. And damn if I didn't go to DraftKings Sportsbook and bet both of those teams to win in a parlay. Yes, I tell you what, I won that money. And thank you to our Chicago teams for doing that, because I'm on cloud nine right now with a couple dollars in my pocket and then some bragging rights over Boston. How'd you guys Monday go?
Oh, so drinks on Herb then, it sounds like.
What I was going to say.
Orange juice, delicious. Free complimentary orange juice, that's definitely on me.
I watched the Bulls game. Bulls won. It was great.
Look at you, got the hat on.
Man, I was pumped. I got home. I had to run out to the store, do a little errand. Got home, and I walked by a bar, and I looked in, and I'm like, oh, well, the Bulls are losing 17-7. That's not good. So it looks like that one's not worth watching when I get home. Turned it on when I made it all the way home, and they made it a game. Ended up winning big. It was fun.
Big time blowout. Janice, did you watch any last night?
I was spent the evening catching up with my stories. So one show that I'm watching right now is this drama called The Cleaning Lady, and
I've heard it on channel Fox, right?
Exactly, yeah. I assure you, it's a lot more interesting than the title makes it sound. It just has a couple of actors that I really enjoy watching. It's really suspenseful. It's a banger, so I highly recommend it. If you're scrolling through Hulu and have no idea what the heck to watch, definitely tune in to The Cleaning Lady.
And then she's like a mercenary, right?
She's literally a cleaning lady that basically works for this drug kingpin. And they kind of have like an interesting kind of give and take situation, because she's a doctor, but
also?
she's she practiced medicine in the Philippines and then went to the U.S. to get treatment for her son who has a cancer of some sort. And then, it's just a very interesting kind of like seedy underbelly kind of show. It's just like, I'm probably underselling it here, but I really enjoy it.
Oh, it sounds interesting to me, but I want to start, and I know this is a White Sox podcast, and I know you guys want White Sox stuff. Don't worry, we have White Sox stuff. We have Liam Hendriks getting his grades today, as you see by the title, and we're going to talk about other things White Sox related. Vinny has a new article at allchgo.com where he's talking about Eloy Jimenez in this offseason, so go check that out right now. And
didn't even entertain the notion that he would be traded, Herb, even though that's your
that's my thing.
You've been beating that drum since about June, I think. But,
That is my thing. That is my absolute thing. And I know you want to get to White Sox baseball, but bear with us. We're going to have a little icebreaker here. As two people who love live music events, I wanted to ask you guys this question, because myself and Steven Alexander back there, Steven Nicholas.
Steven Alexander.
Our producer is
all right.
Steven Nicholas back there. I messed up his name yesterday. It's going to forever haunt me. But
sounds like it's going to forever haunt him.
Oh, yeah. Like, we're not music guys. I like music, but I don't like going to live events. But I would know you guys both like it. So which would you rather do? Attend a concert of your favorite all-time favorite artist or artist in your favorite venue with the best seats available, but they only play music from their new album? Or attend a concert of a group that you like but don't love, your least favorite venue, in bad seats with acoustics that are not that great, but they play all the songs that you know, recognize, and like. Firstly, let me ask you, Vinny, what's your favorite venue to see a music artist at?
I love Thalia Hall on down in Pilsen. I've been there a bunch of times. Was just there not too long ago. It's just a blast. That neighborhood is so much fun, and the way they've got it set up with the bars in the basement. I mean, Punch House downstairs. I love. That's one of my favorite bars in the city. So Thalia Hall's probably my favorite. But I was just at the Aragon actually on Friday.
Okay. In the hood, in
Uptown, and that was a ton of fun too. More of a historic venue, so that was pretty sweet. I'll go with those two for here in the city.
Janice?
Say that my all-time favorite venue, this is probably just going to be a basic B answer, but I love Red Rocks out in Colorado.
I've heard about it. I've heard it. I've only seen spectacular pictures, never been.
I've seen a show. I saw a show as a teenager. I went to go see Flight of the Conchords many, many moons ago, and I still think about that show quite a bit. It has left a lasting impression on me. But otherwise, if we're talking venues in Chicago, my first show ever was at the Metro. I have seen plenty of solid shows at the Metro, great punk venue, just really great shows coming through. So yeah, it is the old dependable. So that's my favorite.
So Vinny, which one would you have? Your favorite band and the great venue with great seats, but they play only new stuff that you don't know, or the band that you like, but you got bad seats, but you have recognizable music that you're listening to in front of you?
It's a good question. The extremes, as always, the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle, right?
But
if I had to pick one of those two, I'd probably lean toward the latter, because and I've got a kind of a unique perspective, being that all of my favorite bands, all their new albums would be
good.
No, they're worst.
Oh,
because all of my favorite bands are from the 60s and 70s, and like I don't need to hear the Stones playing stuff off their newest album. I need to hear them playing the 70s stuff. But no, I mean I've been fortunate. I've seen the Stones. I've seen Springsteen. So it's It would. I was glad that they played the older stuff.
Would you be like, get to the working overtime part?
Get to the working overtime part, absolutely. But but no, it's actually funny. I mean, I think people ask me this kind of a lot, like, oh, are you going to go see whatever classic rock band is coming through to town, kind of thing? And I'm like, I would rather see current bands. I would rather spend my concert going money on current bands, because you always think to yourself like, oh man, I wish I could have seen Led Zeppelin in 1970 whatever, or you don't want to look back 20 years from now and say, oh well, I had spent all those hundreds to see the decades old version of the Electric Light Orchestra when I could have been seeing this band that was in their prime at the time. So I like going to concerts and seeing current bands as much as that might rock people's world out there.
Literally, my fiance, I picked her up from an ELO show, and it said ELO with Jeff Lynne. I guess that's the main guy.
Is there a way to have ELO without Jeff Lynne?
Like, it was literally posted as such. Like, I was like, who is this Jeff Lynne? Like, wasn't he in the band already? He's like, yeah. They just had to put it on this the marquee so people know, hey, we got Jeff Lynne here.
Like the Smashing Pumpkins with Billy Corgan.
Yes.
They want you to remember.
It's like, okay, cool. And so, Janice, your answer on that one?
This was an easy one for me, honestly, even though at first I was like, oh no, this is one of Herb's Stumpers. I locked myself in a room and deliberated for about a good 35 seconds. And I'm going to have to go with the former. I'm going to have to go with one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite venues, but of course, too, their recent album. So, of course, I mean, Beyonce's Renaissance album, I'm absolutely obsessed with. I play it from start to finish. It's very difficult to listen to one track without listening to the one before it and the one after it, just mainly because the production and the transitions were so incredibly just wonderful and just highly memorable. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with that one. Although Beyonce at the Metro would be a very, very interesting show to see.
Very interesting. She'd be like, what is this small-ass place?
Yeah,
also, what the hell? What's this crowd? This is not my crowd.
She would be absolutely just shell-shocked. But
I'm just like, I know her album people loved and raved about, but mostly they were like, it's good, but it's not old Beyonce. It's not quality Beyonce. You wouldn't feel cheated that you're getting a half of a concert or something that you liked her because of the old stuff. And the new stuff is good, but it's not old Beyonce. It's not Destiny's Child. It's not Survivor. It's not all that good girl empowerment stuff back in the back.
Yeah. She's definitely not going to bring Kelly or Michelle out for any of Renaissance. But still though, I think it would make a very fun show for me in particular. This very selfish request.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, I love Jamiroquai, and one of the things we were talking about before the show started is that I had tickets to Jamiroquai, but it was at this North Coast festival, which I hate festivals. I've never been to one, but I always see them, and it just seems like a bunch of people in one spot that like music but don't like the particular artist that's up on the stage. Like, let me give him a try. And I was like, I got tickets, but I'm not going to go because of I'm by myself. And then secondly, I'm in a festival. I don't want to hear Jamiroquai play their music and then somebody be like, oh, this is terrible, because I would have to fight. It'll be bad because I love them. They're awesome. And I also get mad when people call Jamiroquai just that one guy, JK, the lead singer, because he presented himself as such in the Virtual Insanity video. So that's what I get mad at, especially when I go and see concerts. I've only been to probably 10 in my lifetime. I think my first one was Belle Biv DeVoe when I was 12. And I know Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer were in there too.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh.
This is quite the snapshot of the late 80s, early 90s.
Funny story. I actually saw Vanilla Ice at Citizens Bank Park this past summer.
Not performing.
Nope, he was performing.
That is a shame.
It was a post-game concert.
What does Vanilla Ice perform? How does he perform?
Ice Baby. That's it.
What does he do?
He performs very carefully because he's a little bit older.
He doesn't do the dance anymore?
He did bring out one of the Ninja Turtles on stage, though.
Go Ninja, go.
Exactly.
You're describing the worst performance in the history of music. Is what you're describing.
Hey, after a Phillies-Mets game, of course, the couple of beers have been had. Hey, anything is pretty much entertaining.
This is making Cascade's performance after the White Sox game look like Woodstock right now. The description of this Vanilla Ice program.
It was a Vanilla Ice and DJ Jazzy Jeff in order to.
But no Fresh Prince.
DJ Jazzy Jeff makes sense. He's a Philly native, but I don't understand the Vanilla Ice thing. I guess the name, the cachet is big, so get people in the ballpark who are of my age and older. But yeah, DJ Jazzy Jeff, I would just go for him because he's a musical genius. But
yeah, it was
no
completely. I did not know this was happening, so I just bought the ticket without knowledge that this concert was going to happen post game, and I decided to have a Bryce Harperita and stick around. So yeah, it was still a good time. Still a good time. Good times were had all around.
And I know the folks who are listening right now on the podcast or watching on YouTube want to get to the White Sox stuff, and we will right after I read these messages. Become a CHGO member now. Podcasts and live shows on every team every day. Post-game shows we saw last night with the CHGO Bears and the CHGO Bulls having simultaneous post-games after big-time wins over Boston teams. It was very exciting. I watched both of them with two different screens going on at the same time. Watching the Bulls and the Bears post-games are very exciting because Big Dave and Matt Peck get on 1,000, and then you see the subdued but very excited Adam Hogue, and the more excited Mark Carman, and then through the roof Braggs. It's just the energy is just palpable when you're watching CHGO post games. Premium written content from guys like Vinnie Duber on the end right there, Janice, who writes some premium stuff for the Sky, for members at allchgo.com, and dope merch for all of it. I wish I had my jacket up here. I brought my varsity jacket, which I don't know if it's for sale as yet. I looked on this CHGO locker. It's not for sale yet, but goddamn, it is so good. It is so beautiful. I wear it every day that I've got it, which is yesterday and today. Free shirt when you become a member. And those shirts are dope. The CHGO Skyline is my favorite. And also the blue of the sky. And then they have a black sky shirt. The blue really doesn't match me, Janice. So I had to go with the black shirt with the blue as the accents instead of the blue all the way. Because it takes, I don't know, blue is not my color. I'm a more gray and black and beige type of guy.
I felt as if you pulled the shirt off, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, you absolutely just looked absolutely fitting in at Wintrust Arena. So I empower you to wear the blue shirt.
And that's a great venue to watch any venue. And the Sky crowd there is on fire. And as you see on our screen right now, you can get all this merch right here. The Bears shirt, the QB1 shirt. I can't say that. QB1 shirt on the end. Oh, man, it's so great. You get all the stuff that I'm showing you right now if you're watching on YouTube. That blue shirt right there for the Sky, beautiful. But I got that black shirt also because I love black. It's my favorite color, and it's nice and slimming for me. So you get dope merch for all the teams when you become a member, free T-shirt, and members-only Discord. So yesterday we had our Mailbag Monday segment. You can ask a question in the Mailbag Monday segment only if you're a Discord member, and we're constantly chatting about different things in the different Discord rooms. So we're at the White Sox room, the Blackhawks room is going live, same thing with Bulls, Cubs, and Bears. So become a member now. And before I forget, November 6th, which is a very special day to me, it's my birthday, we're having a tailgate.
You mean we're having a birthday party for you?
Yes, yeah. And so they officially, we're going to have on Roosevelt and Michigan Avenue.
Prime real estate.
Oh, my God. It's so beautiful. We went to the first one, and I could not believe how beautiful it was and how we secured this area. I'm like, how did no one else secure this area for a tailgate? It is a huge area for parking for you and then partying. Like, we had bags out there. Chi-Town Cornhole provided the bags, boards and the bags. It was so awesome. We had a food truck. Everything you could want. Drinks on the house. Music was playing. It was a fun time had by all. So right now, the link in the description is right below this. If you're watching on YouTube, click on that link. Go to the Eventbrite page, and get your tickets now. You can get an individual ticket, or you can get a ticket with a parking pass. So it's a value you cannot beat. 11-6. The Bears will be playing the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. You guys know that song?
No.
I do now.
It's the Miami Dolphins song.
Is it?
Les Grobstein used to sing it all the time.
Was it played in the Ace Ventura movie?
It was not played in the Ace Ventura movie. Godly.
I kind of think you made that song up.
That is a real song. Go and listen to it when you're done with this. Miami Dolphins. It's a terrible song, but
is it worse than your Padres song?
No, there's nothing worse than that song, and that's why those guys lost, because that goddamn song by those dads.
Come to think of it, that guy kind of looked like Vanilla Ice. That might have been Vanilla Ice singing that Padres song. That would be on par with the quality of stuff he's put out in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it just so terrible that those guys ruined the Padres season. They couldn't play after that. They're just so distracted. That's what's in. Oh, God, what jerks. I guarantee we're not going to have a terrible song when we finally go to the playoffs next year as the White Sox.
Disagree. There will definitely be
There'll be a worse song than that?
Yeah. Well, not worse than that,
okay.
but bad.
All right, let's get to why you guys are here. And thank you for joining us, Connor and Herpty Derp and AJ and Dan Payton and Goro. But the reason why we're here is Australian great Liam Hendriks. He is a reliever, two-time reigning reliever of the year for the American League. I don't think he's going to win it this year. But Liam Hendriks is one of my favorite players. We talked about the other day where we're talking about Michael Kopech. And besides the stuff on the field, I love Liam Hendriks for who he is as a person, advocating for gay rights, wanted to come here and establish himself, him and his wife living in the city part-time at least, and ingratiate himself into the culture. That stuff is awesome. If he only did that, I would love the player. But he is an awesome pitcher, and the fact that he has been pitching for the last 8+ years with a UCL tear is just mind-blowing, and pitching at the level that he has been. So I'll go to you first, Vinnie. What would you say your grade for Liam Hendriks as far as results?
I mean, listen, I don't think anybody who watched him this year thought that he was quite as good as he had been in the first 2 years, or the first year rather, with the White Sox. But I mean, you're getting what you paid for. I mean, everybody. It was very popular this year to complain about the amount of money that was spent on the bullpen. Liam Hendriks got a massive free agent contract 2 off seasons ago. I don't think the White Sox or anybody that is a White Sox fan could complain about what they've gotten from Liam Hendriks. He has been basically as advertised. Last year, like you mentioned, Herb won his second straight AL Reliever of the Year award. This year, he's not Emmanuel Clase, so he probably won't win it, but he was still very good and did the job. I think there were some notable moments, but I think every closer has some notable moments that don't go their way over the course of a season. You're going to see guys who are the best closer, in baseball, which Liam has been one of those over the last few seasons, have those moments throughout the year, and I think people will remember them and maybe latch onto them a little bit. Certainly that game against Cleveland early in the year where Josh Naylor did his thing stands out in the memory bank. But other than that, he was maybe not as sharp as he was the year prior when it came to finding the strike zone. I think he talked about some of his struggles with walks and some of his struggles with 2 outs and some of his struggles in non-save situations, he certainly, I mean, the dude, I think, watches numerous times over the course of the year, like every pitch he's ever thrown. You know, he is a video junkie when it comes to watching him and all the stuff that he's ever done. I seriously, I think we walked in there one day and he was like, "Oh yeah, I was just watching every strikeout that I've had since over the last 8 years," and it's like, oh, okay, that's just how you were spending your afternoon. So, he's a guy who, he's in a position and he plays in a unit, the bullpen, that I don't think anybody's usually ever happy, all the way happy with. But I think Liam Hendriks is as good as you could possibly ask for if you're a White Sox fan from that closer's role. So, yeah, I'd go ahead and give him an A- this year because he wasn't the A+ that he was the year before.
Janice?
So first of all, I love Liam Hendriks. Next to Tim Anderson, he is also my guy. I can have 2 guys because this is America, and I can have as many guys as I want. So known for his philanthropy, his animal advocacy, and I also especially love his support of the LGBTQ plus community as well. Not to mention, he was also the first player to be the face of White Sox pride. I was incredibly just impressed that he decided to take on his allyship and also just use that to promote and welcome LGBTQ fans to White Sox games. I think that's quite incredible. So, of course, kind of like what Vinnie said, I think for a lot of White Sox fans, he may not pass the eye test, and that's because objectively, he is not as good this year as he was last year. Yes, his last season was absolutely fantastic, but also, too, if you look at it, he's only blown 4 saves. He's converted 37 out of 41 opportunities. That is still very, very good. So it is true that he is less dominant than, say, his season last year, or even when he became a closer in 2019 for Oakland. He's still one of the best relief pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. But also, too, we have to keep in mind that he's very valuable, but on a team that doesn't give him leads to protect, and also, too, at the back of the bullpen that doesn't necessarily hold any leads for him to protect, too, we also have to take that into consideration as well. But otherwise, his strikeout rate is still fantastic. So, I mean, he's still punching out guys at 36.2%. That is still really fantastic. I believe that's in the top 2% of the league for those of you keeping score at home. But like what Vinnie mentioned, yeah, his command did take a huge dip. So he had a 2.6% walk rate last year to a still below average 6.8% this year. 7 walks in 2021, 16 in 2022. And of course, his whip took a good hit as well. But otherwise, I mean, his fastball is still incredibly good. In my opinion, it's probably one of the better fastballs amongst relievers. So the thing about, he's been pitching with a torn UCL, which is also, like you said, Herb, incredibly mind-blowing. But the most fascinating stat to me is that the average velo on his fastball hasn't really dipped. So it's at 97.6. So it's about the same as it was last year. And of course, too, I mean, his curveball that he throws to lefties, slider against righties, I think his slider is still a really fantastic secondary pitch. And even though, I mean, like Vinnie said, everyone makes mistakes. And just even looking at his heat maps, too, all of the sliders that end up getting turned around for home runs or just meatballs over the plate. That's going to happen. But other than that, I've been really impressed from what we've seen from Liam Hendriks. So, I mean, again, he's not the pitcher he was last year, but he's still very good. So, believe in Slack, I gave him a B+, but I think I want to bump him up to an A-, just even examining the numbers a bit.
Well, I mean, and like you read off just the save numbers, which obviously are so associated with the closer doing their job. The White Sox were a 500 team this year. 81 and 81, disappointed the hell out of everybody, and their closer almost had a 40-save season. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you talk about he doubling his walk rate, his walks, think about anybody else doubling their walks from one year to another, and you're like, he sucked then. No, he went from 7 to 16. This is one of the hallmarks of Liam Hendriks. He barely walks anybody, and you see the stats right there on the screen from year to year. And the results were pretty much the same. He didn't pitch as many innings as the White Sox didn't have as many opportunities as they had the year before, where Liam Hendriks was dominant the year before. He pitched in, 71 innings the year before. This year it's 57 and 2/3.
And he spent a good number days on the IL this year too, which he didn't the year before.
And that's how we found out that the UCL was a thing like 8 years ago, and he still hasn't had surgery for it, and he's just battling through. Like, I don't know the mechanics of the arm, but I've heard that the UCL is pretty, vital for you throwing the ball. I know it's not a complete tear, but it's a tear, and people usually get reconstructive surgery for that. And Liam Hendriks just rubbed some dirt on it, took a week off, and he's like, all right, I'm good to go. That is a mark of a champion when you don't have the good stuff, because you could see the 16 walks this year. Doesn't have his premium stuff as he usually had last year, where he was just a 0.7 whip guy. He wasn't giving up hits. He wasn't giving up walks. Now he gives up double the walks, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, it's tough, and I'm hurt a little bit, but I'm going to battle through. I know how to get people out. Sans the Josh Naylor game where he hit that home run off him. Sans the Byron Buxton game. I blame that more on the manager for not walking that champion player, Byron Buxton. But Liam Hendriks, this is what I talk about with Michael Kopech. This is what I talk about with other younger pitchers. Liam Hendriks knows how to pitch. He understands the science of pitching. And Vinnie talking about him looking at every strikeout he's thrown for the last 8 years. That's a student of the game. Self-scouting. Understanding that he can't just be the same person that he was yesterday, because they're going to scout him. So he needs to move the bar every time that somebody gets up to him, and that is a true mark of a professional. And I guarantee, and Vinny, you can speak to it more, he is a leader out there, and he's probably showing people something that they haven't seen. I know he goes with the codified statistics all the time. He understands how people are, how to shape a pitch, how people are going to attack him. That stuff can just only trickle down to the rest of the guys. They see how much of a professional he is on the field and how much of a great guy he is off the field. There's no way that those guys could not pick up something from Liam Hendriks there.
Yeah, and I mean, every guy in that bullpen too talks about what an experience it is getting to be out there with him, whether it's watching him go to work every day and watching him on the mound, where he obviously excels at the job that they all want to do and they all do, or just sitting out there and having to hear him talk for just hours and hours and hours on end, because he is someone who will listen. If you look up Chatterbox in the dictionary, I'm sure there's a picture of Liam Hendriks there, and I mean that as a compliment because he's a fun guy to talk to. But certainly he is somebody who his teammates notice it, and I think he always jokes that like, oh yeah, they're probably sick of hearing my voice out there in the bullpen. But listen. When you can do your job like that, you earn every bit of that. And he's a guy who makes the team better, not only, like you mentioned, Herb, from what he does performance-wise, from what he does on the mound, but from what he brings to the clubhouse and the kind of presence he is. You talk about being a leader, and he's the guy, whether it was just his willingness to talk to us throughout the season or his actual perceptive skills there in the clubhouse. He was the guy who repeatedly was addressing what was going wrong with this team throughout the whole year. And I think he's kind of the guy that came through with the diagnosis that they thought this was going to be easy. They thought they were going to be able to just have 2021 all over again. And when it didn't happen, he was saying, where's the energy? We haven't done the energy. He wasn't blaming anybody because he was part of that group too, right? But he's the guy who kind of noticed everything that was going wrong, spoke up about what was going wrong. Didn't mean that it changed anything, but to have somebody out there who knows what it takes and knows when you're not doing it, that's important. And to be a part of the group of guys that they have in that clubhouse who do fit that description. There's a lot of them. Lance Lynn, Yasmani Grandal, guys who've been around and can see this happening with this team. It's going to be just as important for them to do their thing next year because, this team needs to be a lot different, not just from, hitting home runs and playing better defense and getting outs, but be a lot different in terms of what their mindset is next year.
And I know he's a general good guy, but I feel like even if he was, kind of a bag, the honesty is refreshing as a journalist. Like, when you go into the locker room, you're going to get no BS from that person. I know also as a journalist, you're not necessarily supposed to have favorites that you cover or people that you love to go and put the microphone in front of, but you're a human. To put a microphone in front of Liam Hendriks, you're going to get quality answers. You're going to get the truth, no BS. So how is he to cover Vinny on a day-to-day basis when you're in the White Sox clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, he's great. And basically what you said describes it perfectly. I mean, you go over to him, you're going to get, and we call it good stuff, but when good stuff means, like you said, descriptive answers about what's going on, answers that you're looking for when you say, hey, what is it like being in this clubhouse? There's a lot of guys who are telling the truth. They're not making anything up, but they'll go, oh, it's good. Everything in here is good. It feels good, kind of thing. And Liam will say, oh, it's good, but ... here's why, or here's why it's different than last year, kind of thing. So, when you formulate those questions in your head, regardless of who you're going to ask them to, the answers that Liam Hendriks gives you are usually the ones that you're thinking, oh boy, it'd be great to get some of those. So, he's great to cover because he's very honest. Again, not only about what's going on with the team, what's going on with himself. If he has a bad game, he's going to tell you, oh yeah, I screwed this up and I got to work on that. That's got to get better, kind of thing. Again, when players say, oh, it was a tough day, things didn't really go my way, they're not lying to you. They're just kind of maybe, leaning into some cliches a little bit. And I think Liam stays away from that, and that's refreshing.
And Janice, I know that you were covered in 2020 for the White Sox, and then I don't know if you got to meet Liam in 2021 or 2022, but is there a player or a person that you've met in your journalistic travels that is kind of like that, is refreshing? You want to put a microphone in front of his or her face?
I've never met Liam Hendriks before, even though he seems incredibly interesting, and just even knowing a lot of his peripheral interests outside of baseball, I feel as if just even objectively we would get along well. I know he's very much so into astrology. I just talk about it so men leave me alone. But I know that he's an Aquarius, and I know that the traits of an Aquarius, and like if Liam might agree with this, like progressive, intelligent, unique. Like I feel as if Liam is a very unique kind of guy,
yeah.
And also too idealistic. And so I think a lot of those traits too. I'm sure he checks CoStar or the pattern or whatever every day. But I'm sure, yeah, he probably uses it as a way to be introspective and really kind of come to terms with himself and his personality. But otherwise, to answer your question. I mentioned on yesterday's show that I met Tim Anderson, and he was just a delight to talk to. Just even knew that I was new and not really used to talking to people in general, let alone a Major League Baseball player. But yeah, took the time to not only let me get to know him, but also got to know me as well. Was asking me questions about, my basketball career, my very short season that I played on the Richard Henry Lee middle school basketball team.
How'd you do?
I was one of two girls on the team, so they made us point guards, of course, because we had to be. But otherwise, I was a great shooter, kind of like a corner shooter. That was pretty much my thing. My entire game plan was just to wait in the corner for a pass, and once I got the pass, I would just go ahead and just let it fly. But otherwise, Tim Anderson was probably one of my favorite people to interview and talk to.
And so what's our grade for Liam Hendriks for the 2022 season, Steven? Let's pull that up. We have a A- for the results. His stuff command a C+ because he wasn't as sharp as he was the year before. But overall, an A- for Liam Hendriks because he is the White Sox champion of a player. I want to ask this sincerely, as I asked yesterday with Tim Anderson. I love Liam Hendriks. I want him on the team. But as we see, this team is 81-81. And I would say the bullpen is a place of strength that they can deal from. And him being the best person in that bullpen with 1 year remaining and an option year after that, do you think the White Sox would seriously entertain a trade of Liam Hendriks and then just have one of the players who are in the bullpen currently, either Kendall Graveman, Joe Kelly, Ray Lowe, or Jimmy Lambert, step up to be the all-time closer or a closer by committee, Vinnie?
No.
Thank you.
No. Listen, I mentioned the contract that Liam Hendriks got a couple off seasons ago. There's a reason you hand that contract out. And you're paying, you've gotten what you've paid for so far. There's no real sign that you're going to stop getting what you paid for moving forward. Not only that, we might think it's pretty easy to look at someone's numbers as a reliever and say, oh, he was damn good as a setup man. Just make him the closer next year, he'll be fine. When you talk to the baseball players and the baseball people, it is not that easy. And they will tell you over and over again how difficult it is to be a closer, to pitch the ninth inning. When you find a guy who has the mindset that allows him to succeed in that role, and do it at an all-star level, at a best-in-baseball level, hang on to him. Hang on to him. So many times teams are having closer issues, and the White Sox don't have that. The White Sox they can set it and forget it with Liam Hendriks, and that is a luxury to have. They paid for that luxury, and there's no way that they're going to put themselves at that great of a disadvantage to tinker with some other areas of the roster. I don't think that losing him is any sort of good idea. As I've talked about with Jose Abreu, as I talked about when we talked about Tim Anderson, you lose those guys, your team is worse. I mean, if Jose Abreu not being on the White Sox makes the White Sox worse. Tim Anderson, if he were to be traded, makes the White Sox worse. I'd say the same thing about Liam Hendriks. Liam Hendriks leaving this team makes them a worse team, and that would be the opposite direction that they are trying to move in currently.
Janice?
I'm going to say no, do not trade him, but that's no with an asterisk.
Okay.
So I feel as if, like Vinnie said, you hand over a contract this large. There's a reason for that. So like I said before, there are some cases where he might not pass the eye test, but I do want to point out his xERA this year. So it was at 2.59. His actual ERA was 2.81. So this also suggests that he's been a little unlucky. So given these numbers, I feel as if he's going to be even better coming up. So in that case, doing a quick temp check, I actually did a very informal Twitter search of Liam Hendriks trade before I jumped on this wonderful podcast. And a lot of folks from random fan bases are very interested. So I think what I'm going for here is if Liam Hendriks is traded, the only time I feel as if that would be acceptable is if it is in return for a significant bat. And when I say significant, I mean like someone that hits like I don't know, like 30 plus home runs. It would have to be like someone of that elite level, because closers are very hard to find. And I feel as if, yeah, exactly. And like Vinnie said, yeah, I mean, the White Sox have solved the closer issue, but the thing is, though, there are so many other issues that they also need to solve as well, like second base, right field, just the eternal problems that this ball club always has. So I am leaning towards I say medium to hard no.
All right, before we go to commercial break, I didn't tell you guys about this. I told Steven, and you can participate, Steven, if you want to. There have been, according to Baseball Reference, about 36 baseball players from the great country / continent of Australia. Can you name any of them besides Liam Hendriks? I'll go with you first, Janice. Can you name any Australian player that's played in the major leagues?
Oh, so not active, but of all time?
Of all time.
I know Grant Balfour, great baseball name, by the way.
Grant Balfour, ding.
Here we go.
Vinnie?
Oh, man, she took the one I had.
That's exactly what I would have said too.
You guys are out?
Might be. There's an outfielder from like the mid-2000s. I know that. I do not remember his name.
All right. Steven, do you have any?
This is a complete shot. Was John Roush Australian?
John Roush was just tall, not Australian.
That was honestly the reason I was thinking that.
Easily confused.
Yeah.
Those are easily confused.
Max has
people
one
in
of
the
them.
comments are coming through now. They can take over this because this is an embarrassing showing by us. But yeah,
I thought there were better players, but Liam Hendriks is the second best player in history of Australian baseball players, according to B-War. The best is Dave Nielsen, former first baseman. Liam Hendriks is 2. Grant Balfour, you said. Peter Moylan, as Max has said. Some names you might know. Graham Lloyd, Joe Quinn, and Ryan Rowland Smith, formerly of the Mariners, I believe. He has a podcast himself. So, yeah, there has been a couple of these Australians, and mostly they're pitchers, and they had short stints here in the major leagues. So Liam Hendriks, he might be the first of the class of Australians that might be eligible and might even get a sniff of the Hall of Fame, even though he's not even close to it, because he's already, 30? He's already played 12 years, so he's only got like a 10 WAR in his career. But I thought there were more Australians. I had suspected that there was much more. Look at Alex Ruben, Lewis Thorpe. Stop looking up stuff. And Luke Longley didn't play baseball.
also his name is spelled differently there, White Sox Tom. L-U-C. I'll see if I can find some more when I head down under.
And yes,
Yeah.
Vinny is going down there. I mean, Did you speak to Liam about your trip down to Australia?
I did. He knows I'm heading down there. He had some recommendations, so that was nice of him to offer those up.
He's like, go to the Applebee's or go to the what was that Outback Steakhouse? No
Outback
rules.
Steakhouse was not among his recommendations.
Just right.
I'm going to go ahead and say they do not have any of those in Australia.
They probably hate Foster's down there too. It's kind of like you come to
because they have their actual own beer down there. They don't need the fake.
It's not
fake
the
stuff. Yeah.
Australian
and
for beer.
I'm wondering if AJ in our chat here is Australian too. We really have been global so far. We've got Israel, Spain, maybe Australia now. AJ, please comment if you are. I'm curious.
Me too. Now, before if you do comment, I'll be reading my Green Ridge Farms read, and so I'll check it after I read this. Green Ridge Farm is a Chicago local meat and cheese company offering you a better all-natural option. Makers of all-natural deli meat sausages and their famous meat sticks. Perfect for tailgating, happy hour, school lunches. These all-natural meat sticks are hardwood smoked for 8 hours with 16 grams of protein per stick and make a perfect post-workout snack. Meat sticks come in chicken, Black Forest beef, flavors like jalapeno cheddar, and spicy chili. Delicious because they're all made with recipes generations in the making and become all natural. They are delivered fresh and flavorful, an alternative for snack time. I had one yesterday. It was very good. Sean usually has them much more before I do, but yesterday they refilled the refrigerator here at CHGO Studios because the dual Bulls and Bears post games they had here. But Sean usually eats them, so I can't get to them. Luckily, Sean's in Vegas right now. I can go and snatch one before the show starts. You can always find them in your refrigerated section of Costco, Sam's Club, or in your local Chicagoland grocery store. Right now, when you order any 3 meat sticks from greenridgefarms.com and include a pack of meat sticks in your cart, those meat sticks will be free simply by using code CHGO at checkout. Greenridge Farms, simply natural meat. And let me tell you about FOCO. Chicago, you've already had the best coverage for your favorite teams, so get fitted out in your best sports gear around. FOCO has you covered from Soldier Field to the front room, north or south side, with hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Get decked out like DeMar in the apparel from the leader in sports merch and collectibles, FOCO. Looking for the perfect gift for the football fan in your life? FOCO's got you covered with hoodies to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below for all 9 pre-sale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. And the last thing I got for you guys, and by the way, AJ said, let's see, is he Australian? No, he did not. Expose Fosters to America and England. So he is Australian. That's good. There's also no such thing as a blooming onion. Come on, man. How you telling me that they got all this stuff wrong, AJ, and that we've been fed a bunch of lies? That this is not a knife, that's a knife?
I just
sure
remembered.
he appreciates that joke.
Oh,
too.
he hates Crocodile Dundee. Oh my God.
I mean, who doesn't? Let's be honest.
He was great. Paul Hogan was great. He's still
I'm not
alive.
saying
He's still with us.
I'm just saying the movie is not very good.
Oh, it was great. As a child, that movie was one of my favorites.
I just remembered that AJ is actually the same person who pointed out Australian basketball player Annalie Maley as she was in the Skies training camp last year. She did not make the team, but really interesting player to watch, big on the rebounds. So thank you, AJ, for that heads up on Annalie Maley.
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions for Vinnie being out there in Australia, send them through. Send them to Vinnie, on his Twitter, at Vinnie Duber. He'll probably be doing what? How long are you going to be out there for, like months?
Just 1 month.
Oh, my God, that's awesome.
Whoa.
It's just, it's an awesome trip.
You're
it's
like
one of
moving
the,
there.
That is an
Goodness.
amazing thing that you're just going to be, you and your wife are going to be out there in a country that's just exploring for a good month, not rushed, feeling good about yourselves. Man, it must feel great.
You only get one honeymoon. Make it good.
And you guys are very creative. That's awesome. How far do you think the White Sox are from the World Series? We see these Phillies in there. They were the 8th place team in the National League, or 7th place team. I forgot which one. But they were the last team to get into the playoffs. Then you see the Houston Astros, who are the juggernaut in the American League. How far do you think the White Sox are from those two teams? Like, we call the Phillies the White Sox of the NL, but the White Sox have to face the American League teams, and those Houston Astros still don't seem like they're going to lose any steam. As we looked at the free agent list, they're losing Michael Brantley. Justin Verlander will probably opt out, but probably go right back to them. They have a lot of people on their staff that's still going to be good. How far do you think the White Sox are from competing with these type of teams, Vinny?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, there's two answers to the question. There's the question of how far are they as they stand right now after the season that they just had, and how far should they be, kind of thing, if everything starts going right for them, particularly from a health standpoint. But I don't see them as being far away from the Phillies at all. Like, not only are they probably not far away from the Phillies, they probably should be better than the Phillies, right? They should probably be a lot better than the Phillies, given the combination of pitching and hitters that they have. Obviously, being said, the Phillies, as we mentioned yesterday, are a team that was built on hitting a lot of home runs and did it. The White Sox were a team that were built on hitting a lot of home runs and didn't do it. So obviously, from a results standpoint, they're far behind the Phillies because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. When it comes to the Astros, they're probably a good deal away from the Astros because isn't everybody? We just saw how much the Yankees struggled with the Astros. The Yankees supposed to be one of those other top teams in the American League, and the Astros just did away with them like it was no problem. It was a Yankee team that has the best hitter in the game on it. Couldn't hit against an Astros team that really just dominated them all the way around. So I don't really think anybody is terribly close to the Astros right now because that's what they've shown so far. But really, when it comes to the White Sox, the Phillies are that example of just get in the dance and see what happens. And really that can do it. If we're doing power rankings or something like that ahead of next year, the White Sox should be right there with a lot of these playoff teams. Certainly the Cleveland Guardians, you would expect them to be better than the Cleveland Guardians, but in practice, they weren't this year. So it's a hard question to answer because what the White Sox did to themselves this year, the way that they couldn't really do any of the stuff that they were supposed to do. But if we're still looking at that whole on-paper discussion, they're probably not super close to the Astros, but they should be just as good, if not better, than a lot of the teams that I think reached the postseason this year.
As Kirk M says, just got to get in, and that's what the Phillies did. I think, like you were talking about how the Astros shut down the Yankee bats, I don't think the White Sox pitching staff is too far away from that. We already saw top of the league Dylan Cease. We haven't seen top of the league Michael Kopech, which I believe is coming. And
we saw him shut down the Yankees.
Exactly. We've seen Lucas Giolito be dominant and Lance Lynn be dominant in time. So for that part, I don't think they're too far away from the Astros from getting them in a series and then battling them. Janice, how far do you think the White Sox are from the Astros and the Phillies?
Just looking at the Phillies give me big could have been us type vibes. Of course, there are some fundamental differences between the White Sox and Phillies. For example, the Phillies actually hit home runs. So I think that's probably the big fundamental difference right there. But of course, too, just looking at the new playoff format and also the postseason, this gives me the idea that maybe the regular season is might be a little meaningless. But in the grand scheme of things, you basically saw 100-win teams like the Mets and Dodgers completely just fall flat on their faces. Essentially, once you get in, pretty much your job there is to win games and just do whatever it takes to win. So I guess to answer your question, the White Sox are not too far away from either team, I don't think. But of course, too, they just have to do what it takes to, fix problems. But of course, too, when you look at this organization, why would they operate any differently than they have for our lives? So, there are definitely going to be things that keep the White Sox from succeeding. It's just a matter of fixing those problems and essentially just winning ball games.
It's simple. It's simplified what you said right there, but it's true. Like, I believe that the regular season is kind of too long and meaningless, as you said. The Braves, the Mets, the Dodgers are out here with 100 wins, and they're sent home packing before any of their championship series. And so it's like, what do we do? Like, all that winning for, like, just to play 4 extra games. It's weird. But I believe the White Sox, as I was just saying, the pitching staff is not too far away, especially with the offseason from Ethan Katz, which I keep on harping on because I think he is a difference maker as a coach, as a teacher of the game, and with the tools that he uses. And he gets the best out of his players, and I believe that he'll get that out of these guys in this offseason. And so this 2022 season, I'm going to chalk it up as an anomaly, as the exception instead of the rule, because the guys couldn't hit home runs. We saw Tim Anderson with 6 home runs. We talked about him yesterday. No player on the White Sox hit 20 home runs. We know that's a joke. So I'm going to chalk this up as I chalk up the 2020 season as a Mickey Mouse season. I'm going to say 2022 was a real season, but also you had the whole coming out of COVID thing and the whole lockout thing, which I think affected the White Sox more than anybody else, and maybe injuring themselves there because of just different things that they were doing and kind of, in my estimation, no urgency on the team, and they didn't really seem like they're pushing the pedal to the metal until way too late. So I think the White Sox are actually not too far away, and if they do bring everybody back, I'll be disappointed, but I understand their plan because they believe in their guys, and I think you said it, Vinnie, like trading any one of these players, especially the top players, sends a message of we're kind of giving up on this season, or we're kind of giving up and we're retooling for 2023, where the window's open now. They need to actually push down the pedal a little bit more and keep the players that they have and maybe have some additives for the players that they don't have. And so I think the White Sox are not that far away, even though I am, usually mad, and this offseason I think is going to be the key to their success going forward for years to come.
Well, and whether or not that ends up being the actual philosophy, that they still believe in this core group of guys, that it's like, all right, just stay the course and it'll be good. I think that's a perfectly reasonable philosophy to have, but whether that is what they're thinking or not, they're kind of stuck there. Yeah. So that is pretty much probably going to be what you're going to see, is most of these guys coming back. And I think that there's a very good argument to be made for almost everybody that disappointed so much this year that, all right, well, they can still be good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think everybody is like, all right, that's it, Luis Robert, done. Just give up on the guy. I think that's a little extreme. There's no doubt that they got to go to work and do some work this offseason. There's some big problems to fix.
Definitely.
But that being said, I think they're kind of stuck in the way that, as I've said many times on this show, I think that they are basically going to have to stick to the plan, whether they want to or not, and kind of hope that it works out. And again, this time a year ago, we would have been talking about this plan working, this plan is going to be good. Can't wait for this plan to get going. And now obviously colored by a season of disappointing results. But I think there's plenty of reason to still believe that this could produce the winner that was envisioned.
I'll get to another question right after I read these two reads. Game Time is a new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, like we talked about earlier, and shows. Ever dreamed about sitting in a seat that you never think you could? 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert? It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy at Game Time. You won't find better deals this season on the Bulls, Blackhawks, any concert you want to go to, the Beyonce at the Metro, which is not a real thing, but if it was, it'll be at Game Time.
And those tickets would be very expensive.
They would. They'll be more expensive than the World Series. Created by fans for the fans, Game Time guarantees the lowest prices. As I said before, went to Atlanta, bought tickets on the Game Time app, which you can see on the description below, right in the link in the description below. Bought them for me and my fiance. We enjoyed ourselves, but I saw their 110% guarantee, and I was like, you know what? This is not real. And so I checked other sites to see if there were seats in my section that would be cheaper. And I did find it on a different site. I screenshotted that, sent it to the Game Time app, and they immediately, 12 minutes later, I literally counted out, sent me the difference of the tickets plus 10 more percent. So 110% guaranteed money back. So the lowest prices guaranteed at Game Time. If you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. It's the best way to support us is buying your tickets through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and scored the best seats to all your favorite events. Let's see what read I got to do next. Shady Rays. There it is. Shady Rays never understood why sunglasses were so expensive, so they set out to change that. You don't have to break the bank for quality sunglasses this fall because our friends at Shady Rays have you covered. Shady Rays are premium polarized shades featuring world-class optical clarity, substantial durability, and styles catered to everyone and every lifestyle. The best part about Shady Rays, they have the most insane protection program of all eyewear. If you lose or break your shades on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked, drop it in the lake, off a cliff, in the Bellagio fountains, anything, they'll replace them. Even if you had that strong of a protection of a program, they still manage to make quality that you can tell by holding them in your hand. It seems as good as any expensive pair that I've ever worn. Shady Rays customers seem to agree. They have over 200,000 five-star reviews. Shady Rays also provides 10 meals to fight hunger in America with every order placed and have donated over 20 million meals to date. They stand behind their product, and they told our team if anyone has a problem, they'll throw out profit, and they'll do whatever it takes to make it right. Free returns and exchanges. You either love your shades or Shady Rays will pay to ship them back. That's it. Exclusive for our listeners, Shady Rays will be running their deepest deal of the season. Use code CHGO for 50% off of 2 or more pairs at shadyrays.com. Buy one, get one free. You can also get 2 pairs as low as $54. Redeem only at shadyrays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades. The last thing I want to ask is, I think the Jerry Reinsdorf teams, the Bulls and the White Sox, have a unique experience, especially because of the loyalty that he shows. It's a double-edged sword. I like it because you feel like you can be yourself and you can have a job without worrying about what's over your shoulder if the man's going to fire you. But also, I think sometimes it breeds complacency. I would be, if I was Rick Hahn or Kenny Williams, kind of in this situation looking at the Astros and say, we're not far away, but also I have job security. I know I'm going to be here for a decent amount of time, so I'm going to try some things, maybe a little riskier move for this guy, that guy, or the other, just because our season didn't go well in 2022. I want to try to roll dice and get it better instead of bringing back the whole team next year and maybe have the same results or have an early X in the playoffs. I know that you guys probably don't feel the same, but that's how I would do it. What do you think of my thoughts of maybe Rick Hahn or Kenny Williams shake it up and maybe do some? I know yesterday you were like, if you trade a guy who's on a major league roster, you're usually going to get a prospect back. But I'm thinking more like change of scenery type of guys. Like, this guy had a bad season for the White Sox. This guy's had a bad season with Team X. A change of scenery would have both of them do well. What do you think about that, Vinny?
I mean, I believe Rick Hahn when he says that everything's on the table, and you don't have to go back very far to find an example of him doing something that you probably didn't think he was going to do when he traded Nick Madrigal to the Cubs for Craig Kimbrell. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody really expected that kind of a trade. Oh. And at the time, the day it was made, it had very positive reviews, and certainly it didn't work out the way anybody wanted it to. I think Nick Madrigal and the Cubs would probably put themselves in that camp at this point. But
objectively, it was a good trade. Yes.
But right, exactly, and
at the time,
I think a lot of people see the end result.
Yeah.
Right. The White Sox did this. The White Sox didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about somebody taking risks and trying stuff. That might all be happening behind the scenes. And I don't think anybody can say with authority, oh, they're not even considering this. Oh, they're not even doing this. You brought up yesterday the idea of the White Sox considering trades for Tim Anderson or something like that. How often every year do you see, Team X is listening to deals on their top star? Well, of course they are. They should be. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean they're actually going to trade him, but that's part of the job. And just because we do not have a report of every single phone call and every single conversation that Rick Hahn has, doesn't mean that he isn't trying to do some stuff that you don't necessarily think is in line with his standard operating procedure, if you want to call it that. So I believe him when he says we're going to consider everything, nothing's off the table. They're having these conversations. Doesn't mean they leave the walls of the room that they're in. Doesn't mean they're ever going to actually anything's going to happen with them. But when you're in a position like this, whether you're where he was a year ago, coming off of that really disappointing playoff loss to the Astros, whether you're in the position that he is this year, coming off a horribly disappointing season that he called the most disappointing of his career, or if he was in the position where at the end of 2 weeks from now, he was going to be lifting the World Series trophy, every single day after any of those things happen, his job is to make this team better than it was the day before. And he's going to be trying to do that. It's a matter of whether that turns out, because he's got 29 other guys who are trying to do the same thing for their teams.
And it's widely known the White Sox believe that they do their best work when they're undercover, where the leaks don't come out, where they're just flying under the radar, kind of Yasmani Grandal deal, which I did not expect happening. And so, Janice, yourself, what do you think about riskier moves for the White Sox in this offseason than just, bringing back the band and see how it works?
It's like what? They say real G's move in silence, like lasagna.
Like lasagna, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you mentioned the Grandal deal. That was right out of the gates. I remember where I was when that Grandal deal happened. I was at work and someone told me about it, and I went into the bathroom and started screaming. I definitely just believe that, they are probably having things that are flying under the radar and having top secret cloak and dagger meetings. But I think just objectively as a fan, I think what is going to sway me, what is going to convince me that they are actually making moves to make this team better, what's going to set the tone is who, obviously the pick for manager, whoever that is going to be. And I'm sure you all have your preferred candidates, but of course, too, I really want someone who's really more so analytics driven, who is more definitely not a best friend, but here to lead rather than, to exactly be everyone's best friend. So I think based on that is certainly going to set the tone for, say, how everything else falls into place.
And speaking of the guy you just mentioned, Yasmani Grandal will be the focus of tomorrow's grades. I can't wait till that one happens. Let's see. We're also going to be speaking to Jeff Pearlman about his new book about Bo Jackson. I am 5 chapters in. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I tell you what. Oh, my.
What a roller coaster.
Whew. I have never read something so, changing of the mind of how you figured a player to be. Jeff Pearlman does this with very many of his biographies he's written. He wrote one about the Lakers, which you've seen the HBO special. He's wrote one about the Dallas Cowboys, about Sweetness, Walter Payton, which was very controversial. But be here tomorrow. We're going to be talking to him about Vincent Edward Jackson, more known as Bo Jackson, and how he got that name. Oh, my God, damn. You guys got to get this book. It is just ridiculous. And we'll join us tomorrow. It'll be a 4:30 interview. We'll start the show at 4. Janice, myself, Vinnie, will you be here?
Perhaps.
Vinnie might be here to talk about the Bo Jackson book that we are going to be reviewing with Jeff Pearlman. Yasmani Grandal gets his grades. I already got an idea what grade I'm going to give him. I know these guys probably might give him the same grade. So Yasmani Grandal grades, and also all the fun from October 26th, which should ring a bell for you White Sox fans. Something happened on that day. Actually, 2 things happened on that day. They won 2 games that day. So for Vinnie Duber, he is our CHGO beat writer for the White Sox. At Vinnie Duber is where you can follow him if you want to send him suggestions to where he should go in Australia. Only if you're Australian. Don't send if you're just a tourist. Only Australians send Vinnie Duber. I kind of got Australian there.
You did a little bit.
I'm sorry, AJ.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
You got to watch that.
My fiance hates when I do accents because they're terrible. But at Vinnie Duber is where you can follow him. Janice in the middle, Janice Scurio. Scuriosa is at Scuriosa. Did I say it right, Janice?
You sure did.
Is where you can follow her. Send her things about Australia too. Even if you haven't been there,
Maybe
even if you're not
tickets?
Australian.
Yeah, you can send me those. I'll take those.
And I'm Herb Lawrence, Ecknerwall 23. Don't send me anything. I'm not going to a damn place. Actually, we're probably going to Ireland next year. So send me suggestions for Ireland next year. I got to go out there. I just got my passport this year. I'm finally going to leave the country, except for the 30 minutes I was in Canada. That guy over there.
Woo.
His name is Stephen Nicholas. Stephen Nicholas. I finally got it right.
Stephen Thomas. I think every day we should give him a new last name.
Yes.
A different last name that could also be a first name?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
He is part of the 2 first name crew, Stephen Nicholas, as myself, Herb Lawrence is. We will talk to you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I appreciate you tuning in, and go White Sox.